Harald Hardrada died at Stamford Bridge in 1066, yet calling him the last great Viking king turns one defeat into an artificial boundary. Harald was unquestionably a Norwegian king, an experienced commander, and a claimant who carried war across several political worlds. Whether he was the last Viking depends upon what that flexible word is made to mean. The earliest secure outline begins not with England, but with a failed Norwegian battle in 1030. Harald was the half-brother of Olaf Haraldsson, the deposed king, who returned to confront his opponents at Stiklestad. Later sagas place the young Harald in the fighting and describe his escape. Near-contemporary poetry supports his association with Olaf, though exact actions remain difficult to verify. Harald's path to kingship, however, led eastward through exile and military service. He entered the world of the Rus, whose rulers controlled cities and routes linking the Baltic with eastern markets. Later Scandinavian tradition connects Harald with Prince Yaroslav in Kiev. From there, he traveled south and joined the Varangian Guard in Byzantine service. The Guard recruited northern and other foreign warriors as an imperial military corps. Harald served the Byzantine emperor, not a free-roaming national Viking army. His campaigns probably took him through parts of the Mediterranean and imperial frontier zones. Saga writers provide a much fuller itinerary, including dramatic escapes and personal exploits. Byzantine and Scandinavian evidence confirms substantial service, but not every literary adventure. Court poetry praises his danger, wealth, and victories because praise poetry advertised elite reputation. The Eastern years matter because they complicate the word Viking. Harald operated inside sophisticated states with taxation, salaried forces, diplomacy, cities, and Christian institutions. He accumulated wealth through service, reward, and campaigning within those systems. This was not an archaic raider wandering outside government. It was a future king learning within empires. Harald came back to Scandinavia during the reign of his nephew Magnus the Good. After tension and negotiation, the two shared Norwegian kingship in 1046. Magnus died the following year, leaving Harald as sole ruler. That succession depended upon dynasty, wealth, alliances, and compromise rather than conquest alone. Norway itself was still a kingdom whose regional elites expected consultation and defended local interests. Harald strengthened royal authority through loyal followers, revenue, and force. Medieval narratives portray him as severe, explaining the byname Hardrada as hard ruler or hard counsel. The epithet captures reputation, but should not be treated as a contemporary psychological diagnosis. His clashes with powerful Norwegians reveal political resistance beneath the image of absolute kingship. Accounts concerning Einar Thambarskelfer and other rivals survive mainly through later narrative shaping. Their deaths should be discussed as royal conflict, not embellished into invented confrontations. Harald also promoted commerce and royal settlement at Oslo, though claims that he simply founded the city are overstated. Urban activity in the area developed over time, and archaeology does not reduce that process to one decree. Coinage bearing Harald's authority circulated within a changing Norwegian economy. Some issues show reduced silver content, prompting debate about fiscal policy and monetary control. Coins reveal royal intervention, but cannot by themselves explain how ordinary users judged the changes. Norway's coast supported fisheries, farming, shipping, and trade alongside royal military needs. Crews required communities to supply food, timber, ironwork, cordage, and seasonal labor. Harald's campaigns rested upon that productive base, which heroic biography usually leaves offstage. For nearly 2 decades, Denmark became his principal external target. Harald claimed the Danish throne after Magnus, while King Sweyn Estridsson held his own dynastic support. Repeated naval expeditions damaged communities and consumed resources without securing lasting Norwegian rule. The battle at Niso in 1062 gave Harald a major victory, but swine escaped and retained the kingdom. This prolonged Danish failure is essential when measuring Harald's greatness. He could mobilize formidable fleets and win battles while failing to convert victory into durable sovereignty. The result made another direction of expansion more attractive. Across the North Sea, Edward the Confessor died in January 1066 without a direct heir. Harald Godwinson became King of England, but succession was contested by several claimants. William of Normandy prepared an invasion based upon his own asserted right. His English claim was linked partly to earlier agreements involving Scandinavian rulers. The legal and dynastic reasoning is preserved through interested sources and remains debated. His alliance with Tostig Godwinson gave the invasion an English political partner. Tostig, the exiled brother of King Harald, had local knowledge and his own campaign against the regime. Their cooperation was strategic. No reliable record preserves private friendship between them. Harald sailed with a large fleet in September 1066. Exact ship and troop totals in medieval accounts should not be treated as audited figures. The invaders defeated northern English forces at Fulford near York on September 20th. Terrain around the Ouse and marshy ground-shaped movement, though detailed fighting scenes come from later reconstruction. York then negotiated and agreed to provide hostages and supplies. For residents, changing rulers meant immediate demands for food, allegiance, and security. King Harald responded with a rapid march north from southern England. On September 25th, his army surprised the Norwegian force near Stamford Bridge. The famous lone defender holding the bridge appears in later versions, not secure contemporary testimony. The Norwegian king was killed during the battle, and Tostig also died. The Norwegian army suffered a catastrophic defeat, with survivors permitted to depart under settlement. Sources later claimed that far fewer ships were needed for the return, though exact numbers vary. Within days, Harald Godwinson marched south to confront William's Landing. His defeat at Hastings on October 14th reshaped English rule under the Norman dynasty. This crowded sequence encouraged historians to make Stamford Bridge the Viking Age's final curtain. Chronological labels can help organize change, but events did not obey modern period boundaries. Scandinavian rulers continued warfare, seaborne expansion, and intervention in Britain after 1066. King Svein Estridsson sent forces to England during rebellions against Norman rule. His son Knut the Holy later prepared another invasion that never sailed. Norwegian kings continued campaigns across the North Atlantic and around the British Isles. Norse communities in Orkney, the Hebrides, and other regions followed their own political timelines. If Viking means any Scandinavian warrior traveling by sea, Harald was plainly not the last. If it means an overseas raider, applying the term to a reigning Christian monarch already creates tension. Harald minted coins, governed through law and assemblies, patronized Christianity, and pursued dynastic claims. Those activities belong within Viking Age history without fitting its popular stereotype. The adjective great introduces another judgment rather than an observable category. His military experience spanned unmatched distances, and his Norwegian kingship proved durable until his final gamble. Yet Denmark resisted him, English conquest failed, and royal pressure carried heavy social costs. Greatness can describe scale and ability without turning failed aggression into admiration. The title works best as a question because every component needs qualification. Harald's death does mark the collapse of the last successful Norwegian attempt to conquer England in that century. It also arrived within a broader transformation of Scandinavian monarchies. Christian institutions, hereditary claims, towns, coinage, and written administration increasingly shaped royal action. These developments did not suddenly replace older maritime warfare. They had long grown alongside it. Harald embodied that overlap more completely than a simple last survivor. His Varangian service belonged to imperial organization, while his kingship drew upon Scandinavian naval mobilization. His English expedition pursued a crown, not merely portable plunder. Stamford Bridge ended his personal claim and destroyed his invading army. It did not end Scandinavian mobility, Norse communities, or every practice associated with Viking activity. No single discovery can fix the label because the disagreement is fundamentally definitional. Neither can transform Viking into a precise title held by one final king. The most defensible ending therefore separates a documented death from a convenient period marker. In this narrow sense, Harald was the last Norwegian king to launch such a formidable conquest of England. He was not demonstrably the final Viking, because that identity had never possessed one uniform historical boundary. Stamford Bridge closed Harald's extraordinary career, while the Viking Age ended differently wherever its connected worlds continued to change.